Hey Facebook, it is Tuesday, November 1st. Yay, welcome to November, Scorpio month, right? And I love Scorpio month, partially because it's my birthday soon. But it's such a great, Scorpio season is such a great season for a lot of different reasons, but that's not what today's Facebook Live is about. But yeah, we're officially in November. I hope everyone had a great Halloween. We had a new moon on Saturday, so a lot of new energy and shifts happening in the world, which is great. Still figuring out how to hold the phone and not die holding it. Sorry about that. So today I wanted to talk about this idea of control. There's Bailey's tail. The idea of control. And the reason this came up, because it's been coming up a lot, is I do a lot of work with high school students, both at the school I work at and in my private coaching clients. And today was that day that they needed to send off those college applications for early decision, early action. And as relieving as it is for some of them, it was also nerve-wracking and inducing a different sort of feeling that came up because now it's out of their control. And so I was thinking about that and thinking about how do we control things in our lives. And when I coach my younger students, my college or high school age students, I realized that there's so much that we can learn from what they're going through. And so, yes, I haven't, gone through the college application process in a while, but there's so many things that I can take into my own life and that I then bring into my sessions with my adult clients. And so this idea of control, and there's only so much that we actually can control in our lives. And that really the only thing is ourselves. And that's how we show up to situations, how we react to situations, how we prepare for situations, and how we commit to the situations we're in and to ourselves is really the be end and end all. We can't control how people respond to us. We can't control how a situation plays out. We can't control whether a college accepts us or we get the job or a significant other accepts something we say to them, how our friends react to different things. We can't control any of that because they're in control of who they are. And so that can kind of get tricky sometimes, right? Because usually when we are feeling insecure about a situation or ourselves, we want to control it even more. And we hold tight to it and we don't want to let it go. But really the best thing we could do is to let it go. Because that's where the magic happens. And having faith and trust that the work that we've done for ourselves and the way that we've showed up to a situation, the way that we have prepared ourselves, that's enough, that we are enough, right? So, learning how to just surrender and have faith. And when we truly surrender and we truly have faith and we trust in the process, which is still something that I, continuously work on. As a dancer, I trust in the process of creativity and choreographing, and every time I direct a show, I'm trusting in the process that it's going to get to where we need it to be and be a great performance. But in life, it's an ongoing process, right? So we're continually in and out of different processes in our life. But if we can learn to surrender, to have faith, and to trust, then we're really opening ourselves up to miracles. Every day having miracles. And that's where, like I said, the magic happens because we're truly living in the moment. And that's when the times that things that we couldn't even possibly fathom in our head that are so much better happen because we allow them to happen, because we don't have an attachment to it, going back to that whole attachment thing that we talked about a few weeks ago, because we just trust and have faith in it. I'm looking at my notes a little here because I wrote a lot about this. And just making space for all of that, all the stuff that we can't even think about. Because we don't have that possibility, right? We don't have, we only, our brains sometimes shut down into oh, this is how this happens, and then B happens, and then C happens, and we just kind of literally, and sometimes downward spiral or upward spiral. But there's so many other options, there's so many other outcomes, right? And as I said the mantra last week, every outcome is a good outcome for our happiness. And so if we can continue to use our mantras, we continue to let go and surrender, and we trust in ourselves, trust that we're good enough. Like that, I think, is the biggest things, is that we're enough. And that if we truly commit to ourselves and what it is we want and do the work and show up for ourselves, then it's going to happen. And it's going to happen and it's going to be okay. And so I've been using a lot of different tools and referencing a lot of different tools and terminology from sports psychology. And so last week we talked about affirmations or thought stopping, and then I've mentioned trigger words. And so I wanted to just talk a little more about what those are specifically. So our mind plays a huge role in how we view the world, right? Last year I came up with this quote of like, I can't even remember what exactly it is now, but something to the extent of we can find meaning in anything. It's what lens we choose to look through, right? So how is our mindset going to shape the way we see our world and the world around us? If we're confident and we're secure and we're happy and we're being open and we're releasing the things that we can't control and we're surrendering, we're going to have a pretty open mindset, a pretty happy mindset, a welcoming attitude. If we're really trying to hold on to things and make it work the way we want to work because that's how we think it needs to happen, and we're trying to control things and over control things, we're probably going to go down that slippery slope of the downward spiral into negativity. The good thing is there are ways that we can shift our mindset. And so one of them is through self-talk. And self-talk is all of those thoughts that go on in your head. So as I say to some of my teenagers that I coach to get into college programs, it's your inner monologue, right? You've got the angel, you got the devil, all that sort of stuff. And so how can we uplift the angel, the cheerleader, and how can we lessen that like negative, the devil and all of that sort of stuff? And so a few different ways. So we talked about affirmations, right? We talked about creating affirmations that work for us, and then saying those affirmations with conviction, because like we talked about before, the more you say them, the more you start believing them, and then you start embodying them. And then we're getting into that mind-body connection, right? And then there's this thing called a thought stopping log. And what I love about this is that they have done multiple studies with athletes and they have them log all their thoughts, negative, positive. And I actually have my clients do this, and I tell them to do it for all aspects, all areas of their life. And then I have them write down, like, what situation was that? Was it coming up in? Was it like the same time of day? Was it the same day every week? Was it when a same person came along? Like, when was it? And then they need to shift that negative thought and create a positive thought. So that's the next step of positive replacement. So you're actively replacing that negative thought with something more positive and saying it. So we're retraining our brain, just the way that we have to retrain our body a lot of times when we get injured, or if we're our alignment is off. We've got to repattern our body. We have to repattern our brain. So when they do these studies, they start realizing that it's the athletes who are thinking positively about negative situations that are the most successful. And I love that, because they're not saying that the athletes that are successful are the ones that like always have positive things happen to them. No, because that's not possible in life, right? Like crappy things happen, shitty things happen. But it's the way in which they respond to them, the way in which they commit to themselves and show up to that situation and decide, because it's a choice, to think positively about something that seemingly could be really negative. Those are the ones that are most successful. And if you kind of just step back and think about that, that makes sense. Because the people who aren't successful in whatever it is they're trying to do, and success is a subjective thing of what we all think of our own success and things like that. But those that don't maybe aren't that successful are the ones that really just anytime a situation happens, it's like, oh, this happened to me, and then this happened to me, and then this happened to me. Well, maybe it's not happening to you. Maybe that's the first shift you think about. Maybe like step back and realize that like this isn't about you. It's not, maybe it feels like it's happening to you, but how can we let that go? How can we surrender to this? And how can we think more positively about it? What can we learn from it, right? Asking questions. What am I learning from this? How is this helping me to grow? How is what this person is responding to me? Maybe I don't like the way they're responding to me, but how can I learn from that? Is this mirroring something that like I need to work on? Or Am I learning how not to treat somebody in the future? Things like that. So I love that idea. And maybe you start your own thought stopping journal for this week. And then maybe with the positive replacement. And then the other thing is visualization. And I went to, I took a couple of fun classes this weekend. I did my kickboxing class, back to that. And then I did a yoga nidra class, which was amazing. And then a psychic development class, which was all about breath work and pranayama and chanting and then visualization at the end. And the teacher, told us to visualize whatever we wanted. And so we sat there and he was like, really see it, really feel it. And visualization is one of my favorite things to teach and one of my favorite things to do. I actually just finished Deepak and Oprah's day 1 of their new 21-day meditation. And I do a lot of visualization with that. And so we did about a 10-15 minute visualization. And after that, he said, and now release that. Because if we hold on to that, if we attach ourselves to that, we're not going to get it. But if we can detach and we can let it go and we can let go of the control and release that into the world and into the universe and to God, and have faith and just go about our lives and show up for ourselves and commit to ourselves, then it'll come back to us. And usually it comes back in ways that we didn't even realize. And so whenever you're visualizing or asking for things, it's always great to say this or something better, because we also don't want to limit ourselves, right? So think about that as you go through this first week of November. And this idea of wanting to control things. And so, I said to my students, I was like, it's out of your control now. You showed up, you did the work, you spent the time figuring out who you were and what you wanted to write on paper. You videoed your supplements and got your recommendations. You've got to trust that the people you chose to write your recommendations are going to write great things about you because you showed up to their class for the last 4 years and you were being your best self. And so it's all a process, and it's all about showing up to yourself and controlling the things that you can control, which that is, like I said, just yourself. And then hitting submit, letting it go, and now it's out of your hands. And yes, it's still nerve-wracking and they all have anxiety still about it. But at this point, there's nothing you can do, right? So how can we use that as adults? Because most of you watching this are probably adults. How can you take that and put it into your life? Maybe it's a job that you just applied for. Maybe you are having a really difficult conversation with a friend soon or a loved one, and you're going to show up the way you can, and then you've got to just release and just listen because you can't control how they respond. I'm actually heading out tonight to go to New Hampshire because I'm giving a presentation at a conference tomorrow for a group that is very outside of the usual demographic that I speak to. And I'm speaking to them about leadership and how to cultivate that. And it's super nerve-wracking for me because even though this is something I talk about all the time, I usually do it in terms of education and performance and performing arts and creativity. And this is a group that's not in any of those realms. They're actually in the resort and hotel field of study. And so it'll be fun, but I have to keep reminding myself that, I did the work. I live this, I breathe this, I can talk about my own practice, and I just got to kind of let it go. And I've just got to show up tomorrow and commit to myself and be present and share the information that I have. And so I will be doing this as well as I hope all of you are too. So enjoy your Tuesday. And next Tuesday, we're going to probably continue talking about this idea of letting go, but with a different angle through it. All right. Have a good night. Bye.